Hi guys, it's Kelly from Cards by Christine here with you on a Technique Thursday to share with you fussy cutting. Now, fussy cutting is not at all a new technique, and for some of you, just the words might send shivers down your spine. But with the evolution of dies and how dies have become such an integral part of our creating process, sometimes when you get a beautiful stamp set that doesn't include dies, you're automatically turned off to it, or it kind of is a creative block because the inability to quickly and easily die cut out your focal image can really change your design. So I wanted to remind you that even when a stamp set doesn't include dies, you can still fussy cut. And we'll kind of go through some tips and tricks about fussy cutting. So, without further ado, here is my camera's a little off, spring creation that I have for you. So, Easter is this weekend, and I was just inspired by the upcoming holiday to create an Easter card with this beautiful bunny fussy cut. So, let's see here. What am I looking for? Alrighty, let's get our supplies around. So a couple of tips right off the bat. So we're going to stamp our bunny in smoky slate. We're going to get it nice and inked up. Move that out of the way. And then get a nice impression on our paper. So I'm just using basic white, and I'm going to press it down. It's a little bigger than stamps I'm normally used to stamping with, so I'm gonna give it some nice firm pressure, and we're gonna go ahead and let it sit on the paper for a couple of seconds, and then we've got that. We're gonna let it sit for a little bit. You're going to be putting your fingers all around it as you move the paper around. So you want it to be nice and dry, that you're not smudging it with your fingers. So that's tip number one that I'm going to share with you. So we're going to let it dry for a couple of minutes while we work on some of the other features of our card. Another kind of bonus technique that I'm going to throw in here is, I think it'd be called masking. So this Happy Easter sentiment is on one line, and that just didn't fit in the space that I had. So I broke it up into Happy and Easter. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in a small block. This is the B block, and I'm going to just mount the Happy and then just mount the Easter, which will allow me to stamp it in the upper corner of my frame here. So let's bring our smoky slate back in. Then, you can mask it off with a piece of paper. You can if you get a little ink on it, you can wipe it off. But the easiest way to not get any of this stamped on your paper is to not get any ink on it. So that is why I'm strategically mounting it, that it's not even on the block. And then I'm going to kind of lower my head to the ink pad to try my best to center it, that I'm just getting ink on the Happy and not the Easter. Okay? So then I'm gonna pull myself over top of my project and stamp it down. Then I'm going to clean my stamp off thoroughly, because now when I'm going to stamp the word Easter, I want to ensure that I'm not getting any residual ink on the Happy for the same reason. Okay, so now got ink just on the word Easter. And then I'm going to hover again and place that right where it belongs. Okay, go ahead and clean again and put your stamp away. So, I think that would qualify as masking. Not in the most literal sense. A lot of times you're taking a piece of scrap paper or masking tape or a Post-it note and masking off so that it's stamping on this, not on your project. But I do think that technique still kind of falls within the realm of masking. Okay, so that little bonus is done. Then let's see here. I think seeing as how we have a little more that we're going to do for assembly purposes, I think I'm going to do that while I'm giving it it really doesn't take the ink that long to dry, but I just don't want to smudge it. So for precautionary purposes, we're going to go ahead and layer up the other pieces of our card. So I used mint macaron for the focal color here, which is way off base for me. I have never been a fan of mint macaron since its inception, but I don't know, it just really seemed to speak to the card that I was designing, and I decided to go with it, and I do really like it. I should also preface by saying green as a whole is my least favorite color, so maybe that has something to do with it too. So mint macaron matted onto smoky slate, matted onto thick basic white. I did, of course, go ahead and use the stitched greenery dies on this background piece of mint macaron. Love it. Very, very pretty. It's a one-off die, so the die set only includes that one die, but it is just so gorgeous that why would you need any more than that? And then I'm going to bring in tear and tape, and we're going to go ahead and get this velvet ribbon on the back of this layer. Such an obscure product. It's unlike all the other ribbons that we have, and I just love it. I've used it for one or two other things, and I really love it. The texture of it is great, and again, it's mint macaron, but I like it. Okay, so I roughly had it like this, and literally that's all I'm doing is laying it down roughly, putting some tear and tape on the back of my frame, and then laying this on there. Once it's stuck, I'm gonna make a tear and tape sandwich, cover up the stuff, also give it a better opportunity to stay put. And then I'm going to bring in my ribbon scissor and trim this down. And I will do further trimming in just a minute. Woo! Shifties. Okay, now I feel very confident that this is ready to bring in. So when I fussy cut, here are a couple tips. First of all, grab your correct scissor. This would not be it. You do not want to use your glue scissor. Very, very important step. Have a designated paper scissors because the blade is most conditioned then for the purpose at hand. It's the same as how you definitely want to have a designated ribbon scissor. It makes a difference. My next tip is make sure you are trimming your paper down to its relative finish size, because if you're going to be carrying around all of that excess paper that I'm trying so difficultly to put away right now, If you're going to be carrying that around as you're trying to navigate the small edges here, it's going to make it a lot more difficult and a lot more frustrating for you to get a good cut. So I kind of loosely go around, trim it down, and now I have a much more manageable piece. Then you want to determine how important it is to you to get all of the little details. Honestly, this isn't half bad. If you want to have a very loose corners, you could stick with this and go from there. I am a much more particular person that I am going to go a little closer and tighter on this, but there is no right or wrong answer. I like to just take it slow and be as precise as I can about the cuts. I will also mention, not every set is great for fussy cutting. And it does depend on your level of comfort and patience for fussy cutting on whether or not it's something that you're going to want to do. Also, remember your output. Remember what you're making this for. If you're making it for 150 Christmas cards that you're sending to everyone, you might not want a fussy cut, especially if it's more of a difficult image. So, just a couple really basic things to think about. And then another thing to keep in mind is there is no such thing as perfect. Even if you had a die cut image to go around this, you still might not get a perfectly centered image. You know, it could shift. You could accidentally cut a little piece off, and that's okay. So even if you make a little mistake, it doesn't ruin your project, and you don't have to start over. So, fussy cutting is what you make of it. If you really hate it and don't have the patience for it, that is fine. You don't need to do it. There's a lot of great designs that can utilize images that don't need to be die or fussy cut out. So just bear in mind that this might not necessarily be for you. But just to not forget about the fact that stamp sets that do not include dies can still be fussy cut and utilized just like those die sets. So there is my beautiful bunny. I am going to give her a pink nose, which is funny because you can barely see it. I probably should use a darker blend than dark petal pink, but that's what I went with. And it is a nice neutral. Neutral isn't quite the right word. This is not a neutral card, but it is pretty close to a monochromatic card using pastels. So I guess that's kind of where I pulled the word neutral from. But you can see it's going to dry to be a pretty pale pink nose. And that's okay. All right. So now I have all of this prepped. I'm going to go ahead and bring my dimensionals in and throw a couple dimensionals. I actually put it on the base to kind of, I couldn't decipher what portion of this to avoid the dimensionals on, so I literally put it on the base instead. Now I'm going to strategically tuck my bunny up into here that I get it as far over as possible with my Happy Easter up there. Because I don't want her to be hanging off the edge so very too much, but I do like that it's hanging off a little bit. Then I'm going to go ahead and put dimensionals behind the whole back piece. Bear in mind now, if you are going to put any on this bunny butt, that you would need to double stack it. Okay. Then I roughly center this guy because of course the bunny is going to throw off the center, but it'll be close enough. And then just push down anywhere where a dimensional is behind. And I can see here, I want to throw one more to help hold up this corner. Now, the reason I didn't completely trim down the ribbon is because I wanted to have the opportunity to gauge how far off of the edges. I wanted it to kind of hang off a little bit, but not too crazy much. I actually like it just how it is. And I see here that I did forget to embellish. I wanted to put brass butterflies on here. So I will do that after this because I don't know where they are in the studio right now and I don't want to lose your attention as I go and run. So here is our fussy cut and pseudo masking technique that I kind of threw in there as extra credit. But what do you think? Share with us your true feelings on fussy cutting. Does it make you running for the hills, or is it something that you have the patience for? I know some people that find fussy cutting therapeutic and kind of just sit there with a stack while they're watching TV and cut away. And I used to have a lot more patience for fussy cutting. I think since my life has gotten so much more hectic and kids and very busy job and all that stuff, I think I've somewhat lost that patience. However, it is a nice slowdown every once in a while. It's not something you'll catch me doing all that often, but share it with us. What do you think about fussy cutting? Is it something you can handle or something you very much enjoy, or definitely not so much? So I hope you have a wonderful Technique Thursday. Today actually is my son's 2nd birthday, so my mom heart is like all over the place. I don't know. I can't believe he's 2 already. It's crazy. But yeah, you can catch Chris later tonight for some live card making.